Welcome back to the Doing Good podcast, where we celebrate volunteers, their stories, organizations, and passion for making a difference. I'm Megan McInnes, your host for this episode, and I'm glad you're here with us. After listening, we encourage you to share this volunteer story to hopefully educate or even inspire someone to act. Now, on to celebrating those who are doing good. Happy to welcome two representatives of Roberta's house today. One is a staff person, Kelli Brooks, and the other is Gregory Prioleau, who is a volunteer. And both have great backgrounds and stories, and not just experiences with, but a vision of the future of Roberta's house and what it's becoming. So I'm excited to be able to get into it with both of them and find out more and more about Roberta's house. So Kelli, let's start with you. Would you let us know about its mission and vision and where it's located?
I'm the volunteer coordinator / community resource coordinator at Roberta's House. And Roberta's House is a family grief support system center, which was established back in 2007. Now when we first started, we had one support group, which was called Time of Sharing. It was specifically for adults that lost a loved one to any type of death loss. Now we're up to like 13 or 14 support groups, and we cover all types of death losses. Some are specific to a death loss and some are general. So we have support groups for women who lost children, 0 to a year. And we have support groups specifically for adults with children who lost a loved one to homicide. And that support group, the children are ages 2 up to 17. And we have another support group specifically for men. I'll save that for Greg to talk about, but he was very instrumental in helping me create that support group.
Now, the people you serve, are they local?
Most of our clients are local. We have 2 locations. We have one in Baltimore City and we have one in Prince George's County, which is like an hour away from us. However, we do our support groups in person and virtually. So you can really log in from anywhere.
So Kelli, explain to us who you are within Roberta's house and how you fit in. What is your work that you do?
So my main goal and job here is to recruit and train the volunteers for our many support groups, and for any type of community outreach we may have. So we have churches and organizations, schools that call in to ask us to set up resource tables at their events or speaking engagements, just to bring awareness to what we do. So, I have so many wonderful volunteers that really make my job a whole lot easier. You mentioned Celinda was one of them. Greg is another one. They just make it's not even a job having the type of volunteers that I have because they're always present, always available, and you know, I just feel really blessed to have the volunteers that I have.
And I agree with you. Volunteers are incredible for the staff people of nonprofits. They make such a difference.
Yes, they definitely do.
Well, could we get in a little bit more into, I'll say, the history of Roberta's house and why, why does it even exist? What is the need? Because, I mean, haven't people been dealing with grief forever, right? No offense, but it's true.
They probably have. So our president and CEO of Roberta's House, her name is Annette March Greer. Um, Her family owns one of the largest funeral homes here in Baltimore City. They also have locations in Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Prince George's County as well. And as I shared before, she had one support group for adults. It was called Time of Sharing. but she understood and saw the need to help children learn how to process grief in a healthy way. Because the thing is, if you don't catch them as a child, then they grow up with these unhealthy ways of coping as an adult. So that leads to all kinds of inappropriate behavior, drinking, drugs, you know, inappropriate behavior sexually. So she saw that need, and, her prayer was that, she's able to create this environment where children could come and share and feel safe. And we help them and, like I said, give them healthy ways to deal with their grief and really honor their loved one in a healthy way.
Fantastic.
She's always shared what she's really wanted over the years, and now we have it.
Well, and earlier you mentioned about the number of ways that you help people. And so, what are these programs that you have structured, you already have set up to serve these people?
So we have support groups Monday through Thursday, and all of our support groups are free. So let me share that. They
Amazing.
don't pay anything. Our volunteers facilitate and co-facilitate most of the support groups along with the staff that we have here.
Mm.
On Tuesday, we have a support group for adults with children between the ages of 5 to 17, and they deal with all types of death losses. It's not really specific to a death loss. Wednesday, we have a support group it's called Raise a Hope. That support group is for, I mentioned this before, adults with children between the ages of 2 and 17 that lost a loved one to a homicide. And then on the same day, we have a support group named HTP, and that's for adults only that lost a loved one to homicide. Thursdays we have time of sharing. So that was the original support group
Mm.
that we've had. And that's for adults that suffered any type of death loss. We have a camp um, that we that's held in August. This year is August 8th, 9th, and 10th. Again, it's free. It's free to the campers. It's free to the volunteers. Our goal is to take 70 campers along with 45 to 50 volunteers. It's an overnight camp. And again, it's an opportunity for kids to share who they lost, how it made them feel. We give them healthy ways to manage their grief. We give them, and integrate art activities in all of our support groups.
Now, Kelly spoke of your involvement with mold, one specific program. Could you tell us a little bit about that program in particular?
I sure can. And, if I may, I'd like to give you a little information on how I became a part of Roberta's house, if that's okay.
Sure, yes.
Well, I became a part of Roberta's house through Kelly. Um, and it was just something that was meant to happen. It was an unfortunate tragedy that brought me to Roberta's house because I'm retired from a state of Maryland transportation law enforcement agency, and Kelly's brother, Corporal Courtney Brooks, was one of my coworkers. And on the eve of New Year 2007, he was struck and killed by a drunk driver.
Oh no.
I met that family through that tragedy. And so not long after Kelly actually started with Roberta's house as a volunteer coordinator, she contacted me and asked if I would assist with a children's camp. Camp Aaron, you heard her mention that. Um, I I agreed. I didn't even have to say, okay, you know what, let me think about this or whatever. I was all on board with it because I know how important it is to help those who are grieving. And I've been with Roberta's house ever since. And it hasn't been. I thought I was going to the camp to help the children, but most of the time when you're doing a job such as this, um, especially in grieving, you find out that you're helping yourself, even though that wasn't your original plan. Um, so in that camp, with those kids, we laugh with them, we cry with them, we make sure they learn that they can still enjoy themselves after loss. And I don't want to go too far off of your original question, but Kelly and I had a conversation about how much men, how much grief needed to be addressed with men. We thought it was very important because as men, we're so used to, um, I say, being in charge or being the leader, being the strong one of the family, what have you. And the thing is, who's helping us?
Mm-hmm.
So we had a conversation about that, and I'll tell you, we didn't. We took our faith and moved forward. Of course, the program was approved, and we felt that it would be uh, that for men to be around their peer group, it would be easier for them to talk about grief, because every time they're asked, or we are asked, I shouldn't say every time, but many times we're asked, how we're doing. We're okay. Okay.
Right.
And we don't want people to know that we're actually hurting as well, because in many
Mm-hmm.
many times people think, um men think it's a weakness, if people um see them crying, or see them hurting, or what have you. And but we need assistance just like anybody else, because one thing that's special about Roberta's house is that it assists people as they're going through what you would consider the worst part of what can ever happen to them here on this earth.
I hope anyone who hears this will run to you or um, give Roberta's house information to their loved ones when they're in need. So this is incredible. Thank you both. And both of you have such incredible backgrounds and experiences which have led you to or through Roberta's house. So, Greg, I want to start with you, but Kelly, I'll give you a heads up. So, Greg, what have you learned about grief through helping others with Roberta's house?
What I've learned about grief is that um, it's a lifetime thing.
Mm,
Um, I lost my little sister, died when she was 2 years old in 1965. And I still get choked up when I think about it. Um, so I've learned that there are ways of managing your grief. And, right after a loved one dies, you might have a lot of people coming up to you and saying, oh, it gets better. It gets better. And that's true, but that might not be uh, the thing that a person needs to hear initially, because because they feel like everything is falling apart. I mean, my mother just died last year. I didn't know how Mother's Day was going to be for me, but um, as as I went through the day, and I shed some tears, but
hmm
the love that she shared while she was here got me through yesterday. Um, I didn't know what to expect.
hmm
The first Mother's Day without my mom. Um, but But the thing is, I've learned that there are ways of managing how you process grief, and I think that's the main thing. Um, and one of the other things I've learned is that you need to share with others because about how you feel and what you've gone through because if each of us lives long enough, we're all going to experience the loss of a loved one.
And so, Kelli, I turn to you. What have you learned about grief through helping others through Roberta's house?
So I've definitely learned a whole lot over the years. I think my main thing was I had to learn how to help myself first, um, before I was able to help someone else. And whenever people ask me, "How'd you get to Roberta's house?" And I always tell them it was divine intervention because I had lost my dad, um, and not long after that, I lost my mom in September of '03, and then my brother in '07. So I was definitely spiraling down, um, and I lost a marriage because of grief, not understanding how
Mm,
grief really impacts your life. And my prayer was, okay, God, if you just show me or help me figure out what's going on with me, I promise I will help everybody and anybody I can because I never wanted anybody to kind of deal with or go through the things that I was going through. Like, I never connected the dots. I never connected my mood swings, my attitude, my demeanor to grief at all. I was one of the ones with all the books open saying, well, I must have bipolar disorder, or I must have personality disorder, or I must have this, I must have this. So it was like I had been here at Roberta's house maybe 3 or 4 months when our executive director gave me this form to give to the families, and it had the physical, emotional, psychological effects of grief. And I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. Like, this is me, this is me, this is me. And it was at that point that I said, I got this now. I understand what it really is. I can put a name to it. And now I can learn how to manage it and deal with it. And that was just a turning point for me. And just being educated on grief and hearing other people's stories kind of normalize mine, and I mentioned that before, it makes you feel like you're more part of something than on an island by yourself.
mhm, mhm,
So it really helped me to honor how I feel on a daily basis and not just say, "Oh, I'm good," when I'm really not good. I feel like grief it comes in waves. Like, you have good days, you have bad days. It can be totally unpredictable. The sun could be shining, the birds could be chirping, and you're like, I don't understand why I feel this way.
mhm,
Well,
mhm.
so I have definitely learned a lot over the years. I've learned how to be forgiving to myself, um,
Mhm.
understanding that now that I understand, my grandmother used to always say, when you know better, you do better.
Clearly, we all have different stories of loss and of grief and of remembering the life that we all share and those people brought to our lives. So thank you for sharing the services that Roberta's house brings to each and every one of us, because goodness knows Roberta's house knows how to deal with this and how to equip us, how to walk through it, right?
Yeah.
As her grandmother said, when we know better, we do better. So I think that is a certainty with Roberta's house. And for those who are listening, their website is www.robertashouse.org. It's Robertas house.org. And I encourage anyone and everyone to go to the website, look for resources, look for the support groups, try one out, try another one out if you want to, feel free. And just know that Roberta's house is here for every single one of us. And for those of you who, whether you're new to Doing Good today or a repeat visitor, I am so glad you have come to join us to celebrate Roberta's house, really. So thank you again to Kelli and to Greg for your time today and for sharing your heart and experiences and journeys. And thank you to the listeners for listening and joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again and hearing and talking with you again soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Doing Good podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation today, we invite you to subscribe or rate us on your favorite podcast platform. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, or YouTube at Doing Good TV. Doing Good is a 501c3 nonprofit. Please donate to support this podcast via the donate button on our website, doinggood.tv. And while you're there, nominate a volunteer you know for us to celebrate on a future episode. Together, let's celebrate those who are doing good.